Right now, when you get to here, up a bit more. Right now, wait. Close your eyes. Just focus on this. Now squeeze from there. So initially, part of your biceps training and triceps training is initiating muscle. But a lot of the time when you see people do this in the gym, all you'll see is that to here. Right? Now, squeeze here, straighten your arm. Good. Right, so you can come across here. Right, now from there, straighten this. And keeping this straight. Right now, touch your biceps on the way down. Slow it down on the way down. Right, now straighten this. To the head, down that
I talked in detail about all the nutritional protocols. I didn't really have a chance to ask you if you had any questions, so we're going to do this today. I'm going to summarize pretty much what I said yesterday, and then show you how you can apply this, for a contest preparation, right? First, yesterday I told you that any client that you have, or if you're a competitor, you can't guess. You need to know. You need to know how much you need, so that caloric requirement, energy that you need daily, as I said yesterday, would be your basic metabolic rate, which you can easily calculate. You go on the internet, there are all these BMR calculators. You put your age, height, weight, gender, and you're going to have a pretty accurate BMR. On top of that, you have to add thermic effect of exercise or anything physically, anything that you do physically. So, for example, Zack didn't train today, but he was spotting the guys, and it's pretty much almost like a training itself. So how much calories he burned? Way more than if he would be just doing nothing. Yesterday I said that as a general rule of thumb, as you wake up and you are inactive, your metabolism is about 30% higher than resting. So just being awake, your metabolism is elevated. Now when you're physical, it's dramatically much more. I didn't talk about how many calories you can burn really in like 1 hour of cardio or training, and there's some conflicting info you can hear, but I do believe that any intense workout you put in the gym with weights, minimum would burn 400 up to 800 calories. Now, when you take all these charts, when they have a different kind of caloric expenditure for different kind of activities, you actually see sometimes that vacuuming the floor supposedly burn more than weight training. So I don't know how they're coming up with those numbers. Yesterday I mentioned that fact about 200 grams of glucose that Charles Poliquin was suggesting post-workout. Measurement that he took was about glycogen burnt throughout the exercise. So I wouldn't necessarily say there is that much, but if you consider there is 200 grams of carbohydrates equal 800 calories, you're pretty much there. So let's say that you do cardio or interval training in the morning, so that thermic effect of exercise of that activity should be, let's say, 400 calories. And then you have 1 or 2 workout sessions. Guys that you're going to have easily calculate 500-600 calories per workout, and that's probably underestimated. So if you're a personal trainer and have like another 6 hours of personal training work, you have to account that also. So once you find how many calories that would be, let's say, Latin, I'm going to use you for example, because you're going to compete, soon. And let's say there is 400 calories, right? 400 calories should be amount of energy needed to maintain what you have right now. This is how much you spend, this is how much you burn. Well, it's contest preparation period. Now you want to get in shape. So usually you get 16, 12, 10 weeks, I don't know how long, but obviously depend on your present condition. Most of the people about take 6 months or 4 months. So for contest preparation, what you have to have in consideration is, again, result. What do you want to accomplish? On the day of the contest, when you step on that stage, you would want to have no body fat, right? You would want to be as muscular as you can be, so you have to either maintain and, of course, if you can, gain muscle mass in process of dieting. And a lot of people say it's impossible to build muscle as you're losing body fat, and I say absolutely you can, because they're two completely independent processes. You can lose body fat and make muscle. On the day of the contest, you want to have a maximal glycogen in your muscles, even though I have to be a little bit reserved. Some people actually look a little bit better if they are somewhat empty. You know, it depends what kind of muscularity you have. If you have a striated physique, right, you can get away with you know, having a maximal. But if you are not really so striated, you're better off to be a little bit short of being fully loaded. You also have to have a maximal intracellular hydration. Of course, if you have a maximal glycogen uptake, you would have that water binded with glucose as a molecule of glycogen, so you would have that intracellular water. This is what you want. But you don't want that extracellular, or rather subcutaneous, because you do need some extracellular, of course. But a winning combination for bodybuilders would be that. And for girls would be you know, a little bit discounted version. You don't need to be super lean like in the bodybuilders, but again, you want to have these parameters in check. When you're dieting, for example, 16 weeks out, these first two happens in weeks before the contest. So ideally, I would like my athletes to lose all the body fat like 4 weeks out, about. So you leave the room, okay, if you're a little late, so be that, let's be 2 weeks out. It's much better to be there instead of catching up and you know, panicking and doing all kinds of stuff and mistaking. Because usually if you have to crash diet at the end, you're gonna have to create much higher caloric deficit. And if you go high caloric deficit for a prolonged period of time, you might kill your metabolism, and then you're gonna be in trouble and potentially rebounding after the show. Yesterday I mentioned I would like all the competitors to understand that you want to be in shape year round, not on the day of the contest. And I did compete 110 times in my life before. I entered every pro show that was organized during a year. So whatever was organized, I entered. And many people said, no, Milos, that's not good. You should relax, you should rest. You know? And everybody that does that, they would get out of shape, right? Because you don't have that mentality. I think that deadline is the biggest motivator. If you're going to step on stage in a matter of so many weeks, that's going to force you to train harder, to diet precisely, and so on. So if you try to crash down, you're going to probably have to have a higher caloric deficit that yesterday I mentioned, I believe, should be. When I construct the diet for men, I gave them about 300 to 600 calorie deficit. So if I would want to do a diet right, instead of 4,000, I can drop it down to 3,700 or maximally 3,400, right? But if you keep that level, like if I would keep the same constantly, as I talked yesterday, your metabolism would adapt to this. So instead, you make your body guessing. So first day, you go 300, and then you go 600, then you go above a couple of hundred, then again you go maybe 600. So you basically play, it could be specifically 2 days, 3 days low, 1 high, 2 days low, 1 high, moderate, and so on. Or what I know, and for example, Mark Coles, who is also a great coach and a friend of mine that we discussed many things, you know, he would make his program, you know, training program according to, okay, when you want to have a no carbs and low calorie days, right? So you schedule it in your workout routine. So it could be that if you follow a program of some coach and I just give you the, okay, on Monday you're going to do chest and Tuesday you're going to do back or whatever else, you know, so I would usually schedule a low calorie day according to the body part that you're training. But I've seen that some people would just give you, okay, go 3 days high, 1 low, so on. I think it's much smarter to adjust the calories to the body parts that you're working. Obviously, the muscle that you want to improve.
Would that also prioritize the higher days based on the body part you want to develop as well?
Yes. This is chest, back, whatever is your priority. For me, that would be the highest calorie days. Yes.
So stuff like the weakest body part?
Weakest body part, yes,
Yeah.
always, yeah.
Because a lot
For
of-
you, you're going to bump the legs, a couple of days a week.
Yeah, I'll shoot for Wednesday.